You're now listening to the Something Good Podcast Network. Please press any key to continue.
All right, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of The Couch Potatoes. I'm Alex
Morrison.
And welcome back to the table, man. Welcome back. Welcome back to Charlotte, at least. How's work been treating you, at least, through all this?
Boring as shit.
Is it at least as boring as the previous jobs, or at least bearable?
It's not so bad. It's so boring that the retention rate is above 50%. So, like... it's bad. Like, me just showing up is fine, but like I was literally talking to someone who's been there a week, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm quitting to go work for the post office." I'm just like,
God damn.
Hell yeah, no rain, nor sleet, nor snow can keep you here, motherfucker. Go deliver some mail. But like it is kind of fascinating to see just like a menial job that it pays well. Yeah, I will say that it does pay well for the area, and still the retention is just ridiculously bad.
Yeah, I mean, that is not good.
Like, I spoke to someone who came up to me during my job toward the end of my shift, and like I work third shift, so I'll get off work at 6:30 in the morning, and he just came up to me. He's like, "Hey, how are you doing?" He was doing like checks and basically, and so that's a job. I'm just like, the biggest complaint I like, can we get a fucking radio or something, because we can't wear earbuds or anything like that.
Right.
And I'm standing in one spot moving about 7 feet in either direction, and that's it. That's all I'm doing. And he's just like, you get a radio, then everybody goes. I'm not saying like just for me, man. I'm talking about for the line. Fuck.
Everyone can hear it, bitch.
Yeah, it's like that. It's something rhythmic. Yeah. That I don't give a fuck about the music. It could be whatever the fuck. It could be 80s gangster rap. I don't give a shit as long as it's something I can listen to. Right. And he's like, I don't know. So I was just like, all right, whatever. But he's like, I'm like, other than that, yeah, it's fine. It's just job's a job. Yeah. And then he told me, he's like, I'm like, how bad is the retention here? Because I'm noticing a lot of new faces, a lot of faces walking out the door, not coming back. Because recently we worked 6 days this week, and on the 6th day, a lot of people called out.
On the 6th day.
And I was just like, oh fuck, doing a 20-person job with like 12 people was a bitch and a half.
Sounds like it.
And he's like, yeah, out of like the 8 people that got hired with me, I'm the only one left, and that I've only been there for like a week and a few days. Damn. So I was just like, yeah, I'll stick it out, see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, same kind of thing's been happening with me. It's like I've been there for just a little over a month now, and I'm just like in top sales, and motherfuckers like sending group chats being like, Alex fucking nailed it tonight. And I don't feel like either one of us are that extraordinary when it comes to our jobs. I mean, I wouldn't call myself an amazing salesman. I'm good enough at my job, and you do so many different jobs. It's not like you're working a specialty job that you've trained a long time for. Is the workforce just this kind of...
I think it's nothing bad against the workforce. I think it's you have the options. Right. And, if you don't like something, yeah, you're well enough within your right to leave. And I think another part of that is, granted, there are jobs that pay a lot less and you're doing 10 times the work, a lot of our generation, especially the later part of our generation and the newest generation, are extremely looking forward to quitting because like, just think about like a 2-week notice on a job. For us, that was kind of like a standard growing up, but no, you don't really need that. And you have employers being a little bit too aggressive with the people they have, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how hard you work. They can fire you and replace you. They don't give you a 2-week notice. They'll fire you, or not even call you. They'll fire you on Christmas and then ghost the fuck out of you. So yeah, I think a lot of people, especially the newer generations, realize these kind of things, especially in the age of social media where the people are openly talking about how they're being treated at jobs. I think recently there was a woman who was she had got hired on a company A, but she decided not to go because company B told her they could pay her double for what she's going to do. And she went there. And so company A called company B and tried to poach her. And apparently that's a thing. Like, apparently that's an issue between companies of poaching. I remember I got talked down to by a manager for poaching other people within the company.
Wow.
Because they were dissolving a whole branch of the company. So I was cherry picking motherfuckers from that area that were being eliminated. And because they were moving them, they were, consolidating. I'm just like, hey, instead of having them move you here, would you come work in my branch? And a higher up came to me. He's like, hey, you're poaching a lot of people. I'm just like, they don't want to work in there, man. They don't. And
they want to work for me, motherfucker.
And guess what? It's a fucking $4,000 a year extra a year to work where I'm at compared to what they were doing. So yeah like, but that was like at a different, that was at a corporate company. And like the same thing kind of happens in like other jobs too. You move up very quickly.
Yeah. I see that kind of happening at my spot. I mean, someone actually just got a promotion too, and it seemed like he wasn't working there for too terribly long. I'd say maybe like 9 months or so. So I was just like, yeah, it seems like people kind of rank up pretty quick over there, and so I might finally be able to put that on a resume, a manager, and it's actually kind of nice to. Because when you were talking about, most millennials are just looking forward to quitting. That was me at my last job. It's like I daydreamed of just walking in there and just being like, I'm out.
Well, there's no such thing as a career anymore. Even the most.
There are.
But
there's a lot of trade jobs that are paying really good.
Trade jobs, I consider a different kind of aspect. A vocation is different from a career. A career is something where you can transfer that skill automatically over to another job of another title. A vocation is, I'm a welder at company A, I'm a welder at company B, I'm a welder at company C.
Now, my own personal
That's
welder.
a vocation. A career is, I was a public platform relations officer. I then became a service scheduling professional. And then, see, the title changes and the job differs, and that's a career because of the skills I've learned from either college or on the workforce. See, a vocation is, nah, motherfucker, you're a mason. You're a mason here, you're a mason there, you're a mason everywhere. So
but what about the guy that, like what you're saying with welding, he was welder, company A, company B. Now he works for himself and he does custom welding jobs. Yeah. Would that still be a vocation?
Yeah, a vocation. See, like the idea of a career is something you also love to do. People are taking these jobs because they need the money or they went to school and they're good at it.
Well, what if the welder enjoys doing his welding jobs?
Yeah, then that's the career. But I'm talking about like in the broad spectrum of this, people don't do careers anymore.
Yeah.
People do.
No, I get you.
People do jobs and have side hustles to one day do the dream job or, just get out of debt or escape.
Well, see, I still think the concept of dream job is an oxymoron.
Yeah,
because it's like, what is your dream job?
To not work.
Yes, my if I'm going to dream, I'm not going to dream of labor. It's like, am I going to stay busy? Yes, I'm not going to just sit and do nothing. I'm going to work, but me working isn't necessarily going to be my job.
Yeah,
so no, my dream job is to not have a job.
Yeah, that comes down more to like a philosophy kind of thing. So like,
but I don't know. I've lived my life with that kind of mental philosophy on so many different things.
But that's also a lot different from previous generations. It was shut the fuck up and go to work.
Yeah.
But also it kind of changed to where, our parents who went to work had a chance to get something to now it's, I know people working 2 jobs with a wife who works probably 1 job in their full-time jobs and they can't afford the roof they're under. So like there's a struggle going on to where it's like, why the fuck should I keep doing this if I can just lose it all when someone up top's like, we got to cut $30,000 from the budget.
I'm sure you understand.
Yeah, I'm sure you fucking understand. Oh, Merry Christmas, motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Like, they fire you, and that's another thing about, the younger generation. They just don't give a shit.
No.
Why should they? That's another aspect.
I'll sell feet pics online, motherfucker. I don't care.
But like, and there's that avenue, selling yourself in a certain aspect, but it's also you're going to work at I hate using this word, toxic workplace. It's so fucking stupid. It's a shithole. That's what we called it. We didn't call it, oh, this is a toxic work environment. It's a shithole.
We'll get into the toxic work environment next week.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and put it on the thing. Next week we're going to do our South Park retrospective because the season just wrapped up. But to peek behind the curtain, it is 12:12 at night right now because I'm a ride or die motherfucker. I'm in this podcast life, and Chris is now on third shift, so he's wide fucking awake right now. So guess what? I'm down to clown. Yeah. But next week we'll be fully caught up on our South Park, and we'll do a full South Park new season retrospective because they did really good on talking about the toxic work environments and everything on one of those episodes.
But like, you know, I don't want to go on a tangent, but like, you know, the younger generation ain't gonna fucking deal with this bullshit.
Younger generation, I swear to God.
Yeah, man, fucking clever as fuck. Good luck. I tell you, good luck to you, motherfuckers. You have
well,
my
if you
backing.
wanted someone out here freezing their balls off,
yeah, you know, like that's an example of a career, you know, because that motherfucker is going to die. So like I see this kind of idea of just like job hopping. It's just the next thing.
Yeah.
And you know, we came from a background of retail and food service, which is like the bottom of the fucking totem pole.
Yes. I'm living my Dante and Randall life right now.
But like, you know, with those jobs, it's one of those jobs that are so disrespected that it forces the best of us out of it.
I can absolutely see that.
You know, people who actually take pride in what they do are forced out because of you're not just getting paid for it. You know, I'm a true believer that if you want to do business in this country, you got to pay everyone a livable wage. And if you don't pay a livable wage, you're an asshole. And you don't deserve to do business in America. You know, that's a very mafia-esque. Oh, you can't pay your fucking bills? That makes you a fucking douchebag.
Chris is just widening his arm span, opening his hands even wider.
Yeah, doing the fucking Italian grip. And it's just like... it is true. Like, if you can't afford to pay Americans American wages, get the fuck out of here.
I agree.
And it's like, if I do have a shop or something, you know, I'm going to pay someone a livable fucking wage because I need you to be alive and happy to come to work.
And you sound like our boss. It's like in the field that I'm in,
drug dealing.
Yes, apparently, he is the highest paying manager or like business owner in that kind of field,
in that market.
Yeah. So he fully believes in the same thing. He's like, I gotta treat my employees well because they're gonna treat me well in return. Yeah. So, you know, it is good to see that there's at least a handful of companies that are at least kind of keeping that mentality. Yeah. Because it also, that's what it feels like, because he's a younger dude too. He's just very good at managing and, you know, hopping on, you know, the market. But he's a younger dude. So I think he also just kind of comes from that aspect of like, you know, if I want them to work, I need to pay them, you know, and if I pay them, they're going to work. Yeah. And if they don't, I will find someone that is willing to work for some money.
Yeah, it's to quote Butters, it's about that motherfucking money.
That's Skrilla, brother.
I'm trying to help this woman make some real motherfucking money.
But on that note, let's go ahead and move on to some of our news segments. News segments, news topics. It's some. I'll need to come a catchy name for that instead of just saying news segment.
And that's the way it was, folks.
And it never progressed from there.
That actually used to be ending part of a guy who was in the news business back in the day, long time ago.
Yeah,
he would. It wasn't Walter Cronkite. It was actually before him. And he would go like, and that's the way it was. And that's how he ended.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
And that's how he would end the thing. And Walter Cronkite did it too. But that was during the Fairness Doctrine. You couldn't lie on television. And it's just fun.
Well, the first little bit of news, start with an upper. We've gotten our first look at the first Stranger Things spinoff property, I'll say. It's not going to be a show. It's not going to be a movie. It's going to be a stage play. It's going to be called Stranger Things, The First Shadow. And the synopsis reads, Hawkins, 1959. A regular town with regular worries. Young Jim Hopper's car won't start. Bob Newby's sister won't take his radio show seriously. And Joyce just wants to graduate and get the hell out of town. When new student Henry Creel arrives, his family finds that the fresh start isn't so easy. And the shadows of the past have a very long reach. This play synopsis continues to read, brought to life by a multi-award winning creative team who take their theatrical storytelling and stagecraft to a whole new dimension. This gripping new adventure will take you right back to the beginning of the Stranger Things story and may hold the key to the end. So not only is it just going to be a prequel, but apparently there's going to be information in the stage play that ties into the final season potentially.
That'd be nice. Especially with the whole like young Hopper, young Joyce, and everything like that. I think that'd be kind of a real good thing to see.
Yeah. It says that it's going to be making its world premiere at the Phoenix Theater in London's West End later this year, which makes me wonder if Netflix is going to record it to put it on the streaming service, because they did that with that Shrek musical thing they did.
Yeah, I imagine they would.
So I don't know. I'm kind of interested in this. I'm also kind of curious to see how they're going to make this a stage play. You know, is it going to be like a musical? Is it like what kind of things are we going to be doing here that make it
stage plays? Stage plays are a very outdated form of entertainment, but they're still entertainment.
Do you think it'd be good?
Oh yeah, I love plays. We went to plays quite a bit when I was in middle school, and I really enjoyed those. The only ones I don't enjoy are the Shakespearean ones, because it just gets laughable after a point. It's just like, you don't need that many words to say, I want to fuck you. Like,
I want to say I saw whatever the fucking Christmas play is with the ghosts of present, past, future. Yeah. Saw a play of that one.
Ebenezer Scrooge, man, get out of my house, you ghost motherfucker.
That one wasn't too bad, and mainly because the stage design was really good. Like it was a really well put together like performance, and like the way they would transition through segments and how fast people were able to get stuff on and off stage and how seamless. Excellent props to that. Like that was the thing I'm watching, is like, you know, enjoying like the stage presentation of it, being like, wow, that's a really good prop.
It's been quite a while since I've been to a play, but the last one I think I went to was The Telltale Heart, which was Edgar Allan Poe stage play.
Okay.
And one of the cool effects is, I don't know if you know anything about the story, is it's about a man who killed a man. Mm-hmm. And buried his body under the goddamn floorboards, and his heart keeps beating and beating and beating, and he can't get that noise out of his fucking head. So he grabs the heart out of the floorboard and lifts it up. And now he's doing this on stage. He lifts it up. Dude, they hit this fucking piece of material that he has in his hand with a light. It shines so fucking bright in his hands. Like, you're just sitting there. I'm just sitting there and I'm looking up. I'm just like, holy shit, that's a cool live action effect.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, if plays can do that, yeah, they're valid entertainment today.
Yeah.
The Book of Mormon, you know, which is a musical, which I would love to see live, but I can't see this being a musical. I can see this being like a stage drama,
right?
Which there are fun ones. You know, there are fun plays out and about these days, but I could see this being a really good horror stage show. I think that would be quite effective with what you can do with effects, especially just in movie theaters alone. I think you could do a stage play with a ambient kind of feel. I'm not saying go full uncomfortable like Midsommar, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I had a conversation about that. I had to explain that to someone who doesn't watch horror movies. They're like, yeah, someone told me about Midsommar. I'm like, do you like horror movies? No, not really. I'm just like, you're not going to like that. Yeah. I stood there while working and explaining the whole fucking story of Midsommar. She's like, what? I'm like, it's crazy cracker cult bullshit. You just don't.
Well, that's actually a really good segue, talking about crazy cracker cult bullshit. A really interesting piece of news happened 2 days ago, and I'll just lead it in with reading this intro paragraph. Almost a year after announcing its return, the Entertainment Software Association announced today to its members that this year's E3 Expo has once again been canceled. But it sounded like it's going to be canceled for good.
I can imagine that.
Man, talk about an end of an era. Because the E3 showcases, I mean, I remember even during like the Wii U and Wii era, you know, like logging on to YouTube to like catch everyone's, you know, demonstrations and stuff, and, you know, watching other YouTubers or Twitch streamers even reacting to, you know, what's going on. And that was, you know, a really fun period. You know, you had G4 TV going to the old expos and, you know, running specials or all day live events on the channel for it. It was just a fun gathering of things. And it's like, you knew when E3 was coming, I was like, oh shit, this is about to be our game season. We're going to be seeing all the cool shit that's coming out this year. They're probably going to be dropping a title because they'll usually, you know, be like, oh, and by the way, when you leave here, you can pick it up today at Best Buy. You know, some shit like that. We don't have that anymore. Now it's all Nintendo Directs and, you know, the Sony Showcase and the Xbox Live events. It's like no longer do you get it all under one roof.
Yeah. Well, I could see that as like E3 is a very niche convention. You know, most conventions are very one subject matter.
Right.
And another part of it is money. A lot of people can't, you know, spend a lot of money to go to fucking San Diego
Yep.
to see E3, or go to South by Southwest in Texas, or go to, you know, expos, you know, like the Marvel Expo or the Comics Expo and stuff like that. E3 seemed like one of those events where it was very exclusive. And that is a popular thing about it. But it was also like, as a casual fan, it's just like, I'm not going to go to that. Like, I don't have that fucking money. And it kind of alienates a good portion of the audience on those kind of expos. But, you know, with the elimination of G4, a lot of people just, you know, shitting on a lot of things that come out of E3. And the speculation on speculation, you know, really kills a lot of the buzz. I could see them kind of all calling each other on like a back line, being like, we're not going.
You're not far off from that.
Yeah.
So there are two things that really do come into play here. Here's a quote from Global VP of Gaming. Wouldn't you love to have that title? This was a difficult decision because of all the effort we and our partners put toward making this event happen, but we had to do what's right for the industry and what's right for E3. We appreciate and understand that interested companies wouldn't have playable demos ready, and that resourcing challenges made being at E3 this summer an obstacle that they could not overcome. For those who did commit to E3 2023, we're sorry we can't put on the showcase you deserve and that you've come to expect from ReedPop's event experiences. And then at the very bottom of this, it says, the news comes as multiple big names in the industry from Xbox, Nintendo, PlayStation, and more recently Ubisoft announced that they would not be attending E3 in any capacity, most opting for their own digital showcases.
Yeah, they privatized their own showcases.
So it's literally both things what you were saying, lack of interest from the public, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 big names pulling out of the event just to do their own, hey, look at me and my showcase event.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, if you just like Nintendo, you're not going to go to a convention about all 3 major consoles. That you're really limiting to yourself to what you are going to see and what you want to see. You know, at the end of the day, dude, the console's out. All right, we are at a weird plateau right now when it comes to console development, that anything better than this is going to come to that uncanny valley situation we've been talking about, like with AI, predictive fucking movements and shit like that. If I'm playing a game and it's basically a fucking movie, you just eliminated my ability that I need to buy streaming services or anything. You give me a Spider-Man game that is 17 hours long in cutscenes and another 48 hours of playability, yeah, fuck Netflix, man. I'm just like, you know what I'm saying?
That's a new shirt.
I want to save the years.
Fuck Netflix.
$16 a month for 12 months adds up to a brand new Spider-Man game. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and
for the few things I want to see, I'll figure out a way.
I'll figure it out a way. And guess what? I'll figure it out. And guess what? You're just going to cancel it anyway. Why would I want to watch something that's 2 seasons and you're just like, oh man, 3rd season is really going to wrap it up, and it's just like canceled. Fuck you guys.
I still want to see the finale of Inside Job.
I want to see the finale. I want to see what happens in 1899. This was a show that came out of fucking nowhere about people on a boat that turned out to be a sci-fi fucking adventure, and you ruined it, and you had the best fucking soundtrack of any show right up there with Stranger Things. That soundtrack was nothing but 70s fucking rock, and they were on a boat, and it's set in the year 1899. It fit so well for some weird fucking reason. And the only reason Stranger Things is going is because it's a Netflix thing.
Yeah.
1899 was written by someone else. It's like, and then it's like, then we have to worry about, is Netflix going to keep it on there? Because HBO ain't keeping their shit on. You know what I'm saying? Like, somebody's really fucking their things about, you know, when it comes to IPs and shit.
Someone's fucking with my viewing.
Yeah, and I'm just waiting for Amazon and Disney just to come together and buy Florida and export and like just destroy half the communities, and so I can get my Prime house and my Prime meal.
Oh, god damn it.
I'm just waiting for Daddy Amazon just to come out and then like Disney is with us, the mouse. You know, just, you know, I got a lot of things.
I want to see Jeff Bezos with a Mickey Mouse hat on.
I want to see him with a Mickey Mouse hat on and a black bag over his fucking head. I remember I posted a thing in the Discord. It was the homeless man wishes on a shooting star. It turns out to be a fucking billionaire going to space.
And if you want more silliness like that, definitely sign up for our Discord. The link is in the description of this episode. And speaking of silliness, why don't we go ahead and run on down and talk about our main topic. Hit that music. Oh shit, that wasn't our normal music, was it? That's right, that was a fistful of quarters. We're going to be digging on in, and we're going to be rating our favorite, least favorite, every goddamn home console system. Asterisk.
We weren't around for the ColecoVision.
No, and I do not have hands-on experience with it.
It's a remote with a wire.
So, considering that fact, we will be skipping over a few of these, although some of these maybe we haven't played on the actual like hardware, but we've played the games either through emulation or virtual console, let's go ahead and do the one that started it all. It had its own episode on That 70s Show, Pong from Atari.
Yeah.
The classic.
Yeah, so, you know, console, you know, it's the first.
Very first.
You know, I'd put it as an A tier just because of like the kickoff of it. Mm-hmm. Now, if we were doing games of it, it'd be a fucking F tier.
I was going to say, how many games did it have? One. But what you did have was a whole bunch of color shit you could put on your TV, and it's like, now it's tennis. Now it's ice hockey. Now you can just fuck yourself. Yeah.
But it also came with, you know, it was the quintessential, you know, look of a video game system. Right. It wasn't super futuristic. It had wood paneling. come on now.
Styling alone.
I swear to God, if PlayStation were to give me a product that aesthetically didn't look like it came from the future and gave me something that looked like Chevy Chase would drive across country with his family, yeah, I'd buy the fuck out of it. A lime green Rambler wagon, wood paneled PlayStation 6.
Well, PlayStation reps, Sony reps, I know you're listening to this show. Hook a brother up, right?
Yeah, hook a brother up. I still don't have a PS5.
Yeah, so now so with the rating of this one, though, I know you say A tier. I lean more toward B, and the reason why is I feel like we have to rate these on a today's standard.
Oh, if it's today's standard.
Not the way we would look at it back then. Because, yes, absolutely revolutionary. You mean the thing we do at the arcade we can bring home with us now? What the fuck, bro? And, yes, I feel like even at the time, people thought it may have been a little too rudimentary. Because there was a video game crash. So it was still seen a bit of a niche. I would say B tier.
Yeah, I can knock it down to a B. I agree.
Yeah.
Pretty fucking mid.
Pretty fucking mid, bro. I'll beat your ass in Pong later. Never really played the Coleco Telestar.
The Coleco Telestar is just another off the wall before the big three. So
Yeah. Same thing with the Magnavox Odyssey.
Yeah, so these all were just like post Atari systems, and what they did was they helped people like IBM, what became Microsoft, what became Apple, into basically just not just developing the technology they needed later on. So like fun fact, like we all know the QWERTY keyboard.
Yep.
Okay. So like fun fact, Microsoft, when they were doing their computers with IBM, and when Steve Wozniak was doing, the Mac and everything, there were subtle functionality things about the keyboards that were different. And it was because of things like, the IntelliPro and the fucking ColecoVision and stuff like that.
Right.
So like the ColecoVision was heavily inspiring for Mac during the development process. Because Wozniak even said, he used an IntelliPro thing to help design the computer inputs for the Mac. So yeah, that gaming wise, it's very rare. Now, if I was a collector, that'd be cool to have.
Oh yeah,
but
if you're Scott the Woz.
Yeah, but Nintendo only for that poor bastard. He needs to diversify his fucking games.
You got to diversify your portfolio.
Yeah.
So now we're getting into the meat of it for the early era. We got the Atari 2600.
Oh yeah, let's put a new engine in that motherfucker.
Oh yeah. And see, and this is the reason why I put Pong at B, because by the time the 2600 came out, you could get a Pong cartridge, and now you're rocking that old game system on a brand new one that you can also get Millipede and Centipede for, and everything else. And E.T. Now look, we've watched a lot of different documentaries talking about it.
And it was never real, man. It was all fucking fake.
Do you think that truly created the downfall of video games? Do you think I think game truly sent the whole shit to hell? No.
Innovation and technology destroyed the Atari. What happened was you had people building arcade machines, and then someone came along and invented a different processor. The problem was you needed a cabinet to put it in. And so you had individual companies like Data East, ComSec, and stuff like that making their own games and putting them in game cabinets and creating arcades. Because, think about what people say about how social people are. An arcade is the most social fucking place you can be when you're a latchkey kid.
Oh, yeah.
Why the fuck do you need to do it at home?
So you don't have to be social.
Yeah. Like so the Atari went out because arcades were affordable.
Right.
The Atari 2600 when it came out is fucking expensive.
Yes.
And then you had to get cartridges that didn't match the art. So like, I'm sorry. When you see a Millipede monster, it doesn't match what you're getting at home. If I asked you, hey, do you want to play Galaga at home, or do you want to play it at the arcade where you could smoke? And see that girl every now and then that you went to school with. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Basic economy and pussy destroyed that game.
Well, where would you put the 2600? A or B?
B, because the cartridges, it puts it on the map.
Yeah. I put it on B, but it's in front of Pong. I'd say it's
on
the same tier.
Do you know the story of fucking Pong? Have you ever heard what happened with Pong the first go around?
No.
When they created Atari, the guys that created Atari, and this is how they got on the map, created a machine, an actual stand-up playing machine, and they put it in this fucking dive bar of a place like Star Bar or fucking the Skylark or something. And they put it in one of these bars, and the next day they get I read this in a Playboy.
Oh, I remember. I
read this in a Playboy, and like the guy literally said, hey, come and get your shitty fucking box. It's broke.
Yeah.
It's taking quarters. It's not working. And when they got it, when they opened it up at the bar, it was overfilled with quarters. The tray wasn't big enough. And what happened was people just kept playing the fuck out of this machine, and it broke because it was outweighed by quarters. So they had to build a new tray, stick it in there, and come back every day for like a month to get this fucking, undo the fucking change of the son of a bitch.
Wow.
And that's how Atari, with Pong, became Atari.
Yeah.
It's a wild story, man.
And what about the 5200?
5200 is only better because of the controls. I would put it as a C tier. The The controls were better, but you know, it's just wood paneling on a box. You know what I'm saying?
Now we got a string of 3 that I feel like we'll be able to. I've got a separate category now just called Nope. And I feel like all 3 of these deserve in. So yeah, we won't necessarily rank each one, but you know what? We will name every major console. And those 3 landing up there is going to be the Fairchild Channel F. Never fucking even heard of that. Then you also have the GE and Milton Bradley Vectrex.
Yeah, so the Vectrex is the first, like, it's like if Hasbro had made a fucking console. You know what I'm saying?
That's what it looks like.
It is just like some general bullshit cereal box machine. And they were just like, we're going to be the next Atari. It's like, keep making board games, guys.
And then a little bit more popular, but still falls under the Nope category for me, is Mattel's Intellivision.
Yeah, the Intellivision was cool. It had a remote, like a remote control, but it was a cord and it was a dial.
Yeah.
So the controls were a dial instead of a stick.
But it's kind of sad when you're the rip-off 2600, and the 2600 wasn't even that great to start with. So, and nothing really fantastic for me came out of the Intellivision.
And, you know, this is, like I said, this is the, you know, the fucking bronze era of fucking gaming. So, like, we're not hitting that golden age yet.
But we have not hit the golden age. You're right. We are very much in the bronze era. But all of a sudden, a little tiny piece of silver floats through the river, because in this exact same era, we had the debut of the Game & Watch from Nintendo. Yeah. It was so funny. Nintendo rips themselves off so much that when you look at the original Game & Watch, not only do you see the blueprint for the Game Boy Advance, you also see the blueprint for the Nintendo Switch. You see the blueprint for the Wii U. You see it for so many different things. And then later on, there were clamshell Game & Watch devices that looked a lot like a Nintendo DS. So for me, even though the Game & Watch games, very, very rudimentary. It's like the fucking Tiger Flash games. It's exactly what they were. Even though those games were such crap, this was, to me, the start of something. I still wouldn't put it higher than a B, though. Maybe a C.
A B is fair.
Yeah, I was going to say, even though I love this little thing, I still, you're like you said, it's bronze era. To me, nothing really can go past a B in this bronze era. But yeah, so I'd say B or C, whichever one.
I'd put it with a B with the Atari.
Word. All right, then after that, the next era coming up, we've got the Atari 7800.
Yeah, so the 7800 actually is the death, kind of the death one. So what they did was, during that time, they started licensing out the worst of the worst kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I put it as an F just because it kind of just killed the console industry for a little while. And what's fucked up was it didn't improve.
No,
like system wise, it didn't improve. Any historian you talk to that knows about gaming says, like, between the 52 and the 78, like, there's no difference.
There really isn't.
No.
And then after that, you had the Commodore 64.
Yeah, the Commodore 64. That helped create PC gaming in the beginning, the MS DOS level gaming. So yeah, I'd put that as a strong either A or B.
I'll go A, mainly for the fact that even though something like, what were you saying earlier, the ColecoVision, or the Intellivision rather, kind of helped push Apple into further things, I feel that the Commodore had a lot more to do with pushing the video game industry further by allowing that PC access.
I've actually played a Commodore 64.
No shit.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
A friend of mine had one. They unboxed it and we was playing it. It had a Jane of the Jungle. And that's what it was. It was just like, it was like Pitfall.
Yeah.
From the old NES, but it was hard.
So I went ahead and put that in the A tier.
Yeah.
And for this one, I'm fighting nostalgia hard. We've got our first major console, the Nintendo NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System.
I'd put that as an A.
And see, and that's why I'm fighting my nostalgia here. I'm fighting so hard to not put this at an S. And
no. I couldn't put it as an S.
Okay, why not?
It's not perfect. Yes, the NES is fantastic for its time. And, by today's standards, those games are ridiculously fucking hard. Those games are also great entertaining
And timeless.
Friday the 13th, I guarantee you, anybody I know, I don't give a fuck who you are, Hammer, you can come your ass down here, you ain't gonna beat that fucking game without a fucking mod. So like, the games are hard. There's no save states. You know, you're going in blind a lot of times.
I mean, you have your origin of Zelda. You've got the origin of your Mario that you know. There was Mario arcade games. Yes, don't at me in the fucking comments. Don't get in the comments.
Get in the comments.
But our first mainline Super Mario series was on this system. And to me, this revitalized the market. I mean, basically any historian can back that up. It's like, yes, the Commodore 64 was so important, but the NES brought it back into the home. They put it back on the TV. It was a family unit. The kids could play it, dad could play it. There was not as much of the stigma behind it anymore. And though not a perfect system, maybe the next system wouldn't be considered the superior system overall. I think that just with its design, the cartridge, the controls being so simplistic, the origin of the D-pad, Nintendo created that D-pad, and the very first time it was shown was on the Japanese version of it, the Famicom. Made its way to the US, first time debut, so every time we see that D-pad is because of that system. So maybe what it may be lacking with quality games that maybe we got with the next generation, all the innovation that it had, and for the fact that without this system, we probably wouldn't even be talking about Nintendo today.
Yeah, but I think that's fair for an A. I think it's fair for an A because there are better ones. Now, like a nostalgia ones, yeah, it's a fucking S. It's fucking as a history wise, yeah, it's this. But like, when it comes to playability, you know, yeah, it's an A.
Okay, I'll concede
and,
to
you know,
that.
That's
not a bad one.
And that's the great thing about these tier lists. You know, A is a 100.
Yeah.
S, though, is above and beyond.
S made you come.
Yeah. S is the one that's like, yeah, I'll fucking pre-order the son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'll steal it from my friend's house.
What about the Sega Master System? Would you steal that from your friend's house?
No, they smoke. No, it smells like cigarettes.
It smells like cigarettes and cat piss. But yeah, the Master System. Honestly, I don't remember a lot from the Master System.
So,
I mean, honestly, most of my memory comes from like the Genesis.
Yeah, I would put it as a C, just because like it's Sega at its beginning. There's nothing wrong with Sega at the time. You know, they were still in the arcade industry a little bit, but they really don't kick fucking ass until the Genesis.
Kick ass. And then the absolute farts that were the Atari Lynx and Lynx Sega.
Yeah, these were them trying to come back hard. Yeah, I put them as D, both. Both as fucking D, dude. They're not terrible, but you know, with Lynx was a fucking stretch of an idea.
Yeah.
And with them doing the 78 and fucking 5200, nah, they wore themselves out on these. And like graphics wise, you know, the chipset and everything, not a lot of companies were flocking to it. The controls were a little weird looking on some of the on like the controllers and stuff. Even the cables themselves were like a whole like 5 inches shorter than like a fucking Nintendo. So I'm just like,
well, yeah, because the Lynx and the Lynx 2, those were their handheld systems. Those were to combat the Game Boys that were out at the time, which we already did a handheld ranking system. So I mean, I guess these shouldn't really be included in our system.
I wouldn't do handhelds for this.
Yeah, so we'll have to take the Lynx out. We'll have to take those off the D and put those in the nope, because again, this is the same era that your Game Boy and Game Boy Pocket came out. But
trash,
absolute trash, garbage.
I bought a fucking Game Boy for $10.
Fucking trash. But then you had the TurboGrafx 16 and the TurboGrafx 16 Mini. Not a lot of hits coming off that. I've seen quite a few different videos talking about it. I'd have to go F tier on that one. It doesn't really do much that I really remember. But then you've got your Super Nintendo.
Fucking S.
I knew that was coming.
Fucking S, man. Like, the two versions that were out at the time, especially the later one where it was like...
Yeah, Gen 2.
Yeah, the Gen 2. They were perfect for what they did. It was still a two-player system. The controller was better. And guess what the controller did? Because you added two new regular buttons and left and right triggers and another, you still had to start and select, which was, standard. You now told developers that, yes, you have more buttons to do shit with. You fucking use them. And like, do you remember the first game you used that had triggers that worked?
Mario World, probably.
Yeah, but Super Mario World you didn't really need the triggers.
Yeah, for the spin jumps, because then you would be able to break the blocks better.
Yeah, but I used the X button. The X button does the same thing, and it just depends how you memory hold that motherfucker.
Yeah.
But so if I'm holding the controller, I can still to this day know that press Y and put the knuckle of my thumb down to hit B to run and fucking jump.
Yep.
So that's how I'm playing the game. I never used the triggers until I played Madden.
Oh, okay.
Which was, hey, who's my receivers? Y, X, L, and R. Those are my receivers. Let me just throw it to those motherfuckers. So it does develop the game a little bit more, but it also makes it forward compatible later on when you had kind of the shittier developers like JPN and stuff like that who made these god awful games. But guess what? You can still use those fucking controls.
Yeah.
And the Super Scope. I know that's a shitty...
Come on, I had the Super Zapper on my NES.
Yeah, and you had Robbie the Robot, too.
Yes, I did. I had a goddamn robot. You don't see no robot on your Super Nintendo.
Because that robot was fucking dumb.
Robot was the shit, man. You will not disperse the good name of Rob the Robot in this house.
I kick his ass all the time in Super Smash. So, he is nothing but cannon fodder on the trash heap that I build my castle.
And look, as much as I love the NES, I don't have as much personal history with the Super Nintendo. I can't disagree with you. I cannot say anything negative or rebut anything you just said. I mean, it really did take everything that made the NES great and made it better. I will say my only sticking point is, and it's an aesthetic thing, I don't think the console or the cartridges look as cool.
As the NES?
Yeah. I think the NES cartridge and console looked cooler.
I don't know, man. So, when it came to, independent developers... The cartridge itself, the coolest cartridge for the NES was the Legend of Zelda cartridge. It was fucking gold. But there was a vengeful spirit in the Christians around the SNES time with the black cartridge. Killer fucking instinct. And I remember getting that black cartridge. I'm just like, yes, Satan. It's like, it is just like, what is so evil about this thing? And it's just like, oh, it's a fucking fighting game, you fucking bitch. Oh, get the fuck out of here. And then I found I found a red cartridge, and it was Doom.
God damn it.
Fuck yeah.
And then after that, we have the Philips CDI. I went ahead and put it in S tier. That's our first S tier, the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, the Philips CDI is something that Nintendo actually kind of were hoping to work with for the Super Nintendo when it came to discs. There's actually 2 Zelda games for the Philips.
And a Mario game.
And I think this is one of those things that you can argue whether it was a good idea or a bad idea for Nintendo to either kind of wait on the disc revolution. But yeah, it was probably a good idea for them because, the cartridge was tough.
Yeah.
It wasn't one of those things like, oh man, I let my buddy borrow my PlayStation game and he scratched the fucking shit and now it doesn't work. It's just like,
I can't play Twisted Metal.
And it's just like, hey, I borrowed Alex's fucking, GoldenEye game and I chucked that motherfucker against the wall because I couldn't beat fucking Flat Top. But let's see what. It didn't rattle, so I gave it back to him.
But then now to fast forward all the way today, it's like you're borrowing my Super Mario collection thing, but it's like, it's a cartridge.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's totally fine. But no, the CDI is very interesting because, like you said, they were really wanting to work with that with the Super Nintendo. They were trying to get the development with Philips to be able to do CD technology. And then they kind of went, no. We want to work with this other company called Sony. Sorry, Philips. But yeah, you do get to still, I guess, release a few games. But I would put it on they're really bad.
I would put it on D tier just because it was so close to the next gen.
Yeah.
And you could do stuff with it. Like, the hopefulness of the Philips machine was, hey, you know, they're getting rid of VHSs. They're going through a disc format. The technology is getting better and better by the fucking month, it seems like. So, yeah, I could see there was a hopeful idea.
What about the Neo Geo?
Fuck the Neo Geo. Fucking trash.
All right. I'm gonna kind of call an audible on this one because I have 4 separate items that I'm going to count all as one. We have the Sega Genesis, Genesis Gen 2, Genesis Gen 3, and the 32X add-on.
Yeah, so no, Genesis.
I combine all of that together.
The Sega Genesis, if you had friends whose parents smoked, was the shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I'd put that as a high B.
High B.
Yeah, high B. It's
See,
not perfect, but like the controller is fucking weird as shit.
That was a big downfall for me.
Yeah.
I feel like it was the Gen 2 or Gen 3 controller that got better.
Yeah.
And I liked using that one the best because, yes, I had an uncle and their place smelled like dog piss and cigarettes. And he let me borrow it. And yeah, that was a ton of fun. But no, I would absolutely agree. And
what saved that console not only was Sonic, but the games that Nintendo kind of refused to do.
Right.
So like you had games, I will say it again, fucking Echo the Dolphin. But like, but you had games like Vector Man. Have you ever seen Vector Man?
I think so.
Anyone go online and look up Vector Man and look at the graphics of that game for the time are ridiculously good. Vector Man was one of those games like you would get warned about, like you're gonna have a fucking seizure watching this game, like you know what I'm saying. So like, yeah, it's a high B for me for that.
Okay, see, I was honestly expecting you to say a little higher, and I was gonna have to campaign to keep it at a B because, as much as I do like those original Sonic games and everything else, I couldn't get into it as much. It's like I was much happier playing Super Mario World or Mario 3, that kind of side scroller I had a lot more fun with than I did Sonic. And the rest of their IP never really grabbed me either. Sega CD was also a pretty interesting choice. I believe that was also like an add-on, or was that its
no, it was an add-on. So it was a peripheral device that you could put with the console.
Genesis,
yeah, the Genesis, and it just made it run faster. So they had two major peripherals. One was you could put in the cartridge and it made the system run faster.
That was the 32X.
Yeah, 32X. This one was a separate device that hooked up to it, was basically like a CD drive, like external CD drive.
Yeah. And you had Sonic CD and all those games. And that's why I kind of put this one as a separate one. Mm-hmm. I put the 32X included with the Genesis. Because like you said, it was mainly an extra processor, made it work a little faster. Some games worked a little better with it.
And another thing about
this had its own games.
And the thing about the CD was, because it's an external drive, it really pushed people who were into like PC gaming into the next level of gaming, because you could now take a tower PC, mm-hmm. a Windows 98, and you could buy a separate, I think it was an iOmega CD drive that came out because of that, same manufacturer and everything, and then you could do disc games for the PC.
Okay.
Which moved out of the floppy disk era. Hey, do you have one of the 4 floppy disks to play Doom? Go ahead and chuck that motherfucker in there.
This is the way you said it. Just chuck that motherfucker in there. All right. Well, then after that, where would you put the Sega CD?
Probably like a C, just because of what it could do.
But just didn't. It just never applied itself.
Yeah. It didn't stay for extra credit, you know what I'm saying?
All right, and then now we're moving on to the new generation. And first one on this list specifically is the Nintendo 64.
Now, me and you are going to have differences.
We are definitely going to have differences here.
I would put it as an A tier.
Okay.
I think A tier is more than fair.
Okay.
It's not perfect.
Right.
The games were fantastic. That's where it gave. And it goes back, if you listen to our older Nintendo stuff, It's a system you could beat someone to death with.
I know, dude. I will pull a Star Wars thing. Do not let your hatred for this controller cloud your judgment.
I'm not even talking about the controller. I'm talking about the console itself. Tougher than goddamn bricks in a barrel. Like, god damn, dude. What the fuck was Nintendo thinking? It's like it reminds me of like Brendan Lee Mulligan when he's talking about food.
Yeah.
It's like it's not about quality of food, it's about weight. Like it has to be heavy. It's the heft. And I'm just like, the asshole that thought, okay, so the Super Nintendo is a piece of plastic with the fucking chipboard.
Yeah.
Okay, it's no different than a Sega. It feels light, but it's stable.
Yeah.
The 64 though, you could chuck this motherfucker off a roof.
Made by Nokia.
Yeah. You could chuck this motherfucker off a roof and just plug it back up and be like, hey man, we're still on. Yep. Yeah, we're still going. We're still going.
We're good for GoldenEye, right?
We're good. We're good for GoldenEye.
But that's my thing. Everyone wants to shit on the controller. I don't understand why. People that look at that controller and go, oh, what do I do with my hands? Dude, what your right hand, your predominant hand rests on the side with all the buttons. Your left hand either picks between the middle with your joystick and a little trigger, or you slide over one and you have a D-pad.
I want them, as much as I do hate the 64 controller, because I want to have full mobility with both hands, not just like it's shifted and there's extra weight, but like there's no reason I should have something extra on the side of my left hand. I want them to make a peripheral for the fucking Switch, whether it's just some random piece of fucking hardware between your two goddamn hands, and you just have to shift and just play a 64 game on the Switch, where it's just like this dangling plastic dick is just hanging down. It's like, there you go, asshole. There's your fucking trigger and joystick. And then I wanted them to use like the Wario thing, where it's just like some random game where you just have to go and like just rub the shit, and the fucking stick breaks like a son of a bitch. And it's like, oh god damn it, dude.
Look, you can hate the controller. I'm not sitting here saying it's the best controller in the world. That joystick was flimsy as shit.
So here's the thing I have about it. In the beginning, yeah, it's practical. It looks like a fucking crossbow. It's very practical. But when fucking PlayStation came out with analog sticks, it's fucking useless after that.
And that's what I'm saying. The joystick on it really is garbage. Yeah. It's you one round of Mario Party and it's fucking toast. I mean, it's done. But again, Mario 64, Mario Kart 64. I'm not going to say 64 at the end of all these titles anymore. It's just you get the idea. It's the same thing. It's like everything with the prior console was super, and everything is a 64 now.
First of all, it was fucking super. Don't be condescending about that. Star Wars ain't super Star Wars. That's the Super Nintendo, motherfucker.
Look, I'll tease you about it later.
Yeah, okay. All right. Super teams.
But again, and then Smash Brothers, Pokemon Stadium, GoldenEye, Spider-Man.
We didn't need the 64 for Smash Brothers. It's called Go Outside and Beat Your Friend Up.
No way, dude. I mean, this console.
Rock, I choose you.
As much joy as you got from the Super Nintendo is the amount of joy I got from the Nintendo 64.
And I think that's big. It's like age difference wise.
It is. It really is, because we are still very close in age, but we are still right at that gap. Whereas like this became my childhood console, whereas you were already looking at a PlayStation going, no, I want that. I want that. Where I'm looking at this going, Mario's in 3D, y'all, I want this. And I don't know, just when I think classic gaming, I of course think of the NES because of how much fun I did have with it, but the 64 was my original console, and I honestly believe, even stepping back from a nostalgic lens, looking at the quality, not quantity, because it had the least amount of games, but the quality of those games outshine the rest. Star Fox, Smash Brothers, all the Mario titles, Pikmin was on there.
But that's more of a Nintendo thing. You're talking about like
but all their first parties, everyone was a hit.
Yeah, because it's their games.
But you can't say that about all the generations,
because they came later.
Yes, but right now they're still firing at all cylinders.
Yeah, so like the thing about Nintendo is very kid kid oriented, and then it becomes nostalgia oriented later on, especially with the Game Boys.
But then you had all your Maddens, you had your Tony Hawks.
Yeah, but like they don't play as well on the Nintendo platform as they do controller centric games like the Xbox and PlayStation. So like Nintendo goes in hard when it comes to the 64 because it's their last big one, as opposed to like the GameCube later on and the Switch and the Wii and the Wii U. But I'd put it, like I said, it's a high A.
Yeah.
For me, it could be an S3. I'd split the baby and just say S for it.
Well, we'll throw that one up there because I'll concede to another one a little bit later on that I'm not as passionate on. But
how many vetoes do we get? Huh? How many fucking vetoes?
That won't be until later when we have multiple people on this council and have many more opinions to have to attribute to. When it's the two of us, we can work through it. When you start bringing in a third or fourth trying to do these tier lists,
form, no one likes that shit.
Yes, exactly. At some point, we have to have it with one veto. Be like, no, you motherfuckers are gaining up on me. You don't know shit from shit. This is A tier, and I'm not having this mid bullshit.
Halfway through, we're just using Messenger, fucking just messaging each other personally, and just like, Mikey, can you believe this cocksucker said it was fucking F tier? What the fuck? I'm gonna beat this motherfucker.
Motherfucker has no taste at all.
Man, I'm spitting on this motherfucker when I see him. When we get off this Teams chat, I'm fucking losing it, bro. Hit me up on Skype in a minute, man. Hit me up on Skype. Skype's cool and sexy.
After that, we've got the one that I feel like you might have a little bit more to say about, the PlayStation original and Gen 2. And the reason I bring up Gen 2 is he is literally sitting up and correcting himself. Gen 2 had your DualShock.
Yes, so this is the only thing I hated about the new PlayStation
Classic thing, small.
Because it didn't have the DualShock analog and
had the Gen 1 old analog controllers.
And it is tough. And, their flagship games were Resident Evil, Final Fantasy, which was ported over later from Nintendo.
Yep.
But it was a Square Enix game, you had Resident Evil, Crash Bandicoot, Spyro the Dragon, you had your kid friendlies, but then you have the adult games, your Silent Hills.
Hey, we had Conker's Bad Fur Day over here on the 64.
Oh, you sweet summer child. I'm a squirrel who fought I fought a pile of shit and smoked cigarettes every now and then. This is like
cool, man.
Meanwhile, in Resident Evil, you're fighting a fucking triangle fucking headed monster. Why does he look like that? Because he's a child murderer. That's why I'm just.
That wasn't Silent Hill?
Yeah, Silent Hill. Okay. like Resident Evil is like welcome to the mansion filled with zombie dogs that rip your fucking head off. And it's just like, who's your best friend? Leon, man. Leon's gonna keep me alive in this goddamn game. But
praise be to Leon.
And with those games, just like the 64, you're playing on this is a whole new realm of technology. It's not just the disc versus cartridge. It's about power. How much energy can we use to get as much graphics as possible? As great that Mario looked, it was because of the team behind Mario. It was because those guys really spent a lot of time on that IP. PlayStation didn't have a part in the development. They just said, hey, we're creating a disc system. Can you create a game? They could do it. And Square's like, yeah, we'll try.
But would you say those games are a higher quality than, say, the Zelda games on the 64?
Yes.
Well, you also probably don't like the games on the 64 anyway.
I do love the Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. I'm one of those people that say Majora's Mask is the better one. Okay. Because I about got in a fist fight over that one time. Someone's like, you don't like Ocarina of Time? I'm like, fuck you and the Water Temple, motherfucker. And it's just like, Majora's Mask is better. And like, I think it was Johnny fucking G I was talking to. And it's just like, fuck those guys. But like, in all fairness, it's like, The Legend of Zelda is The Legend of Zelda all the time.
Right.
These are brand new IPs coming out that aren't part of Sony. They are independent contractors. They created games that put this system on the map. And I think that was another thing about the console wars that people weren't quite realizing is Nintendo makes shit for Nintendo.
Yes.
And what are the best things for Nintendo? Things made by Nintendo. What's the best shit made for Sony? Other fucking companies make the best shit for Sony.
Yeah.
They create the platform. Everyone else is directing a show on top of it. And like, they do have like, those flagship games. And like, when you associate PlayStation, you associate, Spyro the Dragon and stuff like that. But later on, guess what? Spyro got ported to Game Boy Advance and SP. Resident Evil got ported over to Nintendo later on.
Yep.
Silent Hill, I believe, was a Nintendo GameCube game at one point. Even with the DualShock and everything, I would put it as a B.
Okay.
Because the PlayStation gets so much better.
Okay, I'll 100% concede to that. I figured you were going to put it personally much higher on the list.
No, it's because the newer PlayStations are going to go higher.
Okay, understood.
Just because of what they could do.
All right, well, we'll do a quick little lightning round here because not much more really great came out this generation. You had the Atari Jaguar CD.
I've played a Jaguar CD.
Yeah?
It was terrible.
Well, then for the fact you actually played it and it was bad, I'll just throw that on an F. Same thing with the regular Jaguar. I'll just throw that in the nope category. You got your Sega Saturn.
I played a Sega Saturn.
And?
It's not as good as a Dreamcast.
Should see maybe a D tier.
Yeah.
That works for me.
People who had Saturns were people whose parents didn't love them.
And then you had the 3DO, Gen 1 and 2.
Never played it.
Nope, that goes in the no category. And then the final one for this generation, the Nintendo Virtual Boy.
Fucking S tier.
I still want to play it. It looks like it's such a hot, steaming pile of garbage, but I want to play it.
You know what? I want them to make a peripheral for the Switch.
That would be badass.
And you know what would be better? If it was a slimmer device like an Oculus, but you could buy it in that weird fucking red color.
Yes.
And it gave you the stupid stand to sit it on. You know what I'm saying? You remember the stand?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, I can't let anything cloud this one. It has to go in F. It failed. It fell straight out the gate. It made one step over the starting line and fucking face planted. And now we're moving on to another new generation. And honestly, I'll probably get the weakest one out of the way first. The Sega Dreamcast.
Now, the Dreamcast did something that was really cool with its controller.
The memory card doubled as a screen.
So 64 had the Rumble Pack, which was cool because it was still a corded controller. If you had a wireless controller, you had fucking money. But like the Dreamcast and the detachable memory card, which acted kind of like a Tamagotchi, because remember, it had little controls on it.
Yes, it did.
And this is where memory cards started. This is where it's like, hey guys, the next generation of consoles are going to have external memory. We're going to have to do this kind of like obsolescence kind of thing, this forced obsolescence, where you're going to have to buy more memory cards to play more fucking games because we don't want the cartridges to get overloaded. We don't want the new discs, they want the disc to hold the game, not your game. And it is a great idea because it lets you put more and more on the disc.
Saturn was just very much ahead of its time.
Yes, too far ahead. And I think because Sega was still wanted to be independent, and with the Dreamcast and everything, I think they kind of bit themselves in the foot. And then what's really funny story about them is, we talked about emulators a while ago. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until like the last 5 years that someone was able to break the Dreamcast for emulation because of how complicated it was.
Yep.
So someone finally developed an emulator for Dreamcast, and because of and he talked about how he had to do it and how he had to develop it. It's because of how advanced it was, even by those standards of emulation. So I would put it as a C tier.
Really?
Because there wasn't a lot of stuff I wanted to play on the Dreamcast, but the technology itself, like the detachable memory card with the Mercury screen on it, mm-hmm.
which
is nothing different from like a Game & Watch. That's what it's called, a Mercury screen.
Yep. Or a calculator even.
Yeah, it's called. Yeah, it's made of liquid mercury that's inside the thing. Yeah, it's fantastic, and I imagine like if they had teamed up with Nintendo, I think they would have done some kind of peripheral for a Game Boy.
I could see that.
That would have been like the shit. Could you imagine if you had the next level, 64 or something, where you could put a Game Boy cartridge in the controller?
That actually would be pretty fucking badass.
That would have been the shit.
The shit.
But we don't have a time machine yet.
Well, I smell something. I smell.
Is that hot air balloon coming?
No, I smell Cheetos and Mountain Dew.
Hell yeah.
Oh shit! It's the original Xbox.
Oh fuck. You talking about Sony and Nintendo worrying for a fucking year. Dude, the Xbox was a fucking PC. Like, it was a fucking computer. And it was cooler than hell.
That original fucking controller, though, before
God.
like a month later, they're like, sorry. Hey, look at this one.
God damn. What a fucking prick.
The monolith.
Dude, this fucking mansion you're holding in your hand. But you know what you could do on Xbox that you couldn't do on PlayStation and GameCube was?
Play DVDs.
You could play DVDs on the PlayStation 2, but what you could do on the Xbox was I could put music on the motherfucker and play it in the background of the game while I'm playing the fucking game.
My own music in GTA, motherfucker.
You know what makes Halo better? Megadeth, motherfucker. Blasted fucking holy wars where you're trying to kill these goddamn alien insurgents because they're infringing on your right to kill them. So, like, it was the shit. Dude,
Plus, then you had the introduction to Halo.
Yes, and like the games on the Xbox forced Nintendo and forced Sony to really step it up. And the look of games back then, just a whole new level.
It really was something new.
And guess what? Everyone had a friend that had one of these three, and everyone enjoyed. It was like, for me, it was the last time people enjoyed each other's company when it came to having different systems.
You know what? Yeah, I'd agree.
Hey, let's go to Eric's house. He's got an Xbox. He's got, it plays 4 controllers. Hey, let's play the Canyon in Halo. Man, let's go play GTA Vice City on the PlayStation 2 with my buddy Chris.
Yeah.
Hey, Morrison's got the fucking GameCube, man. He's got the Spider-Man game. Let's play that.
Yep.
And this is when developers kind of realize, Activision especially, is it's like, firing all cylinders, motherfucker. We're putting that game on everything.
Oh, yeah.
And they do have little different features and stuff like that. But, like, it was sleek. It was new. And it was the first one, along with the PlayStation 2 and the GameCube, that gave you the menu screen to where it became something more than a game console.
Yeah. It was a entertainment experience.
Yeah, it's an entertainment system. A true entertainment system. And yeah, I'd put that as fucking A, man.
Yeah. I mean, I would agree, mainly because much like with Nintendo and PlayStation, it's their first outing. It's not perfect by any means. I think they get a lot better, but it's a solid A. It was a really good try right out the gate.
And another thing about the controller itself, as big as it was, it also had peripheral stuff for the controller. You could put the memory card in the controller, which is kind of safer, I thought.
I did too. I like that.
Like, I don't want a fucking memory card dangling out the front that somebody can just step on and fuck up. Because that's what I worried about the GameCube, because the memory card's stuck in the front.
Well, let's go ahead and do that one. The GameCube.
Fucking D. Trash.
Bullshit.
This oversized Game Boy piece of shit.
Now, I will say, I will fight for this one to be an S tier. And the main reason being is everything I mentioned before about the great games on the 64 amplified to the nth degree on the GameCube.
The GameCube is an S tier.
You've got your Smash Brothers Melee that just absolutely is still the best Smash Brothers. I've even played the brand new one that they've got for the Switch. Melee is still the best fucking Smash Brothers. Sunshine is awesome. Luigi's Mansion, fucking amazing. And didn't you say one of your favorite Zelda games even came? No, your least favorite Zelda game came from the GameCube. But even your third-party support on the GameCube was really great.
Yeah.
And if all of that wasn't enough, the Game Boy Player. Yes, you had the Super Game Boy Player for the Super Nintendo. All well and fine. Whoop-de-doo for you. Here's your cookie. We had the damn Game Boy player for the GameCube, and for me, not only was I happy that I got to play my GameCube, my Game Boy games on the TV thanks to it, but when you put that attachment on the bottom of the GameCube, it actually made it a fucking cube, because otherwise it was a game rectangle, and that's some bullshit. That is false advertising, and I'm not down for that shit. But when you put the Game Boy player on it, it is truly a GameCube.
There are only two reasons this is an S tier. One, it was my favorite controller.
The controller is so buttery smooth, dude.
So they put in a secondary locking mechanism in the trigger to where it made it, people who are listening to this, if you fired a firearm, there's a thing called a lemon squeeze on a Glock. That's its safety. A 45 has the same kind of situation. When you pulled that trigger on the right, and I was an FPS guy, when you pulled the trigger, you could either pull it or you could squeeze it, and there was a lock. You could hear the when you press it all the way down, and it was on the left and right. The only thing that was wrong with that controller was the nubbin that was on the
C stick.
The C stick needed to be a little longer. It's a nubbin.
You didn't like the little nubbin.
Yeah, and the fact that there was a Z button and not another Z button kind of bothered me because I use both triggers.
Yeah.
And the number one reason it is an S tier, okay, is if we're playing and you were to say some con word to me like, Chris, eat a dick, I fucking hate you, fuck you for choosing fucking Dr. Mario for Smash Brothers, get fucked, I could calmly get the fuck up, unplug it from the TV, unplug the controllers, and have a handle to beat the shit out of you with it because all I thought of was the song Lunchbox by goddamn Marilyn Manson. I got my lunchbox and I'm armed real well, and I'm just beating you with this fucking GameCube because that's what Nintendo sells as weapons.
They really do, man. The fucking I think it was some shit where it's like the original Game Boy survived a volcanic eruption. They dug that bitch
It's
up
a Game Boy Color
from the ash and turned it on. Ba-ding!
Yep. It survived a fire.
It's like, god damn.
When I was at the Smithsonian Institute, they have the original Game Boy still playing. So it is the OG Game Boy in a frame, and what it is an AC adapter cord is hooked to it, and it's automatically showing the Super Mario game.
Yep, that's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, so
fantastic. Yeah, they build weapons.
Yeah, they build weapons.
I think they're secretly
if I was swinging a 64 controller in one hand and using a Game Boy or a GameCube in my left, I'm fucking your shit up.
Stick a broomstick in the GameCube and you got Thor's hammer.
Yeah, you better have two swinging Xbox controllers, motherfucker, if you're coming at me.
Well, now we've got the PlayStation 2 Gens 1 and 2.
See,
basically Fat Boy and Skinny Boy.
Fat Man and Little Boy.
Yeah.
Dude, this fucking nuclear fucking...
Connect them together and you have a government computer.
Yeah, so what I loved, the PlayStation 2 is an S tier.
Yeah, I would agree.
Them and the GameCube are so fucking awesome. Like, they were so fantastic of a system. And it was the system for the person who got older.
Yep.
The PlayStation 2 was for kids who got older, who grew up playing the NES, SNES, Sega.
PlayStation grew with you.
Yeah, PlayStation grew with you. And the controller, fantastic fucking controller. The buttons are a little smaller, but what you're doing is something a little bit more hard when you're using a PlayStation controller. And for kids who use cheats, dude, the Konami code didn't have dick on people who used the fucking PlayStation controller. Up, down, left. Dude, I to this day, from muscle memory alone, remember the fucking stage 1 weapons cheat from fucking Grand Theft Auto 3. Just about muscle memory alone. And It is fucking ridiculous. The games on that were fantastic. You had 3. Vice City, San Andreas, just for GT. You had Call of Duty. Call of Duty did have, one port for the fucking GameCube, and it was Finest Hour. But it
wasn't that great.
It wasn't as good. It was fun, but then you had Medal of Honor. Guess what? It played better on PlayStation 2. Rising Sun, PlayStation 2 played it better because the GameCube had to use 2 discs.
Yeah.
Because the disc, that's the downfall of the GameCube, was the disc wasn't big enough to hold that much content. And as compact as it was, the little discs were cool, but you would have to have double disc systems, or games, just to play.
Now, I will say my one argument on them not being in S tier is when Xbox came out of the gate, they had already acquired Rare, and they had already acquired a handful of other things and hit it hard with Halo. So their first party standing is doing pretty solid. Nintendo, they rule on their first party. I still don't think that PlayStation has a strong first party by PlayStation 2.
So PlayStation 2, this is where it gets big. Far Cry, Sims, 2K series.
But none of those are exclusives.
Yeah, but God of War, that was the exclusive that really put them on the map. Because God of War, you have games like Bayonetta, Heavenly Sword. You have games that can press the fucking power of the system. And fun fact about the PlayStation 2s, if you had me choose between the Slim or the next gen or the fat one, I'd have to get the fat one, because guess what? You could take an old school hard drive out of your PC and stick it in the back of that son of a bitch, and guess what you can do with the PlayStation 2 after that? You can put all the goddamn PlayStation 2 games on that son of a bitch.
You can put the world on it.
If it was a big enough drive, yeah, you could, if you knew what you were doing.
Yeah.
And it is a nostalgia kind of thing, but they push those other 2 consoles to their fucking limits, man.
Oh yeah.
We talked about it has a bunch of games and a lot of them are shit, but its main title games put the gaming industry on the map, like back to where it needed to be, above what Atari had originally had, above what Nintendo. Nintendo, was the end all be all, just like Atari. And we watched that little documentary about them and Sega. It's just like, it seemed like Nintendo walked up to their house and killed their dog and been like, "You come to my fucking neighborhood, you piece of shit. How dare you with your blue..."
Nintendo rolls up to their hood, starts a shootout.
Yeah, it's like, with you blue fucking hedge thing, whatever that ugly piece of shit with its fucking Pumas. Get the fuck out of here. But like with PlayStation, Nintendo really had to be like, "All right, guys, I really need you to start bashing your fucking heads against the table and giving me some good ideas."
Well, it's also because the PlayStation was formed out of Nintendo screwing over Sony, just like they did Philips with the CDI. They partnered up with Sony. They were supposed to make a CD add-on to the Nintendo 64, the Nintendo DD, the 64 DD rather. That still wound up
64 double Ds,
and that still wound up coming to be, but not with Sony's technology. And essentially what they had created, the Nintendo PlayStation, later turned into the Sony PlayStation. So
this is a perfect example of I'm going to build my own goddamn game system with blackjack and hookers.
Yep.
And guess what? Grand Theft Auto, motherfucker.
Bingo. All right, now let's. So I'll concede that one to be an NS. That was a very strong argument. That was good.
The only problem is I can't beat my friend to death with it.
Now this one I'm going to campaign for an S tier. Now we're in the new generation, Xbox 360.
Which one? Do you have
the Slim, the black one?
Oh, the Elite.
Yes, yeah. The Elite. That's the one I've got in my room that to this day still fucking works, man.
Well, that's because the Elite didn't red ring death them.
No, it didn't. No, I think when we talk about controllers,
perfect.
The 360 controller, the only thing that could have been better is if it had the dual triggers like the GameCube had, where you had the soft and then the click. That's what
the Xbox One has.
Yes. If the 360 had that, I would say that would be the number one best controller, period. Because even outside of that controller melts in your hand. It's so ergonomical.
It's too smooth.
It's perfect.
Another great thing about the Xbox 360 was the removable SSD drive.
Yes.
The Elite really played along with that one a lot. I never had the white one.
I had one white one, and then like GameStop. No, actually, I never got the ring. GameStop was doing some really weird trade, and I think they were trying to get those off the market, where it was like if you traded that in, you got like a pretty hefty like store credit toward an Elite, and then they had an Elite on super discount. So I think I wound up only spending like $30 on the damn thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I played the Elite a lot. I didn't have it. My friend had it. But yeah, the controllers were always perfect. I remember we were I was walking at a buddy's house, and they were playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare, which put PlayStation and Xbox really on the fucking map. And they're sitting there playing like, hey, man, do you want to play? I'm just like, I have never played this ever. You know, I was playing GameCube and shit, so the controller's a lot different. Dude, I get on this game, and I am a monster. Fucking game. I'm like setting like there's a part of the game where you're on like a fucking snowmobile or some shit, and I'm just like racing my ass through this game. Clack, 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 pow, 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 pow. And we were playing on a 45-inch television, which was like fucking badass.
Oh yeah.
And I was just like, there you go. Put the controller back to him. And he's just like, God damn, dude. And with the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox 360 internet capability, really sold this system.
I was gonna say so
because the PlayStation had internet capability. It was, but you only had like one or two games. One was Phantasy Star Online, which was a PlayStation 1 game that you could do. Oh, another fun fact, we forgot all about the PlayStation 1. Black discs.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Like, whoever designed that really wanted something nice to do coke on. Like,
oh, yeah.
Like, let me get this obsidian fucking looking shit.
But it's like by the time the 360 rolled around with the online stuff, you had Xbox Live, and it was the only free service. And with Xbox Live, all of a sudden you had access to Netflix, YouTube, Hulu, all of that stuff, all on your game console. Bro, the 360 was my entertainment system. It was my DVD player. It was my CD player. It played my games and it streamed my shows. I used that thing so much. And being primarily a Nintendo kid and mainly having Nintendo games, now personally owning an Xbox 360 opened me up to being like, oh shit, now I can play Mortal Kombat again. Now I can play Injustice. Oh, dude, what a fucking killer game. And then like all the other like Street Fighter games and shit like that. It's like all of a sudden the side-scrolling beat 'em up games were at my disposal. I could play Lego games at like higher than 20 frames a second.
That's because, you know, Xbox 360 was the next gen. You know, PlayStation, GameCube, and Xbox are getting left behind.
Yeah. And all those reasons for me, though, is why it's an S.
Yeah. That was another thing about the PlayStation 2. It could play DVDs and CDs and stuff like that. And with the hard drive situation, because it was Microsoft, they were very open-ended on what you can do with it, just like you could with the most Microsoft items.
Yeah.
Was, hey, if you don't want to buy the Xbox 360 hard drive, guess what? You can go to fucking Circuit City or fucking Best Buy or wherever the fuck you want to go to and buy just a regular SSD drive.
Just do it.
And just get you a 500 gig drive and add it to the back. Guess what? We put a USB 1 on the back of that motherfucker. So
You're welcome.
Yeah. Thank us later. Don't worry. We got a new one coming out real quick.
But first, we would like to play.
Break out my nunchaku. Another weapon.
The Nintendo Wii, again, creating weapons.
And tennis. And baseball bats. And boxing gloves. And whatever the fuck you want to do.
One of the best selling game consoles to date.
Yeah.
One of. Yeah, not the number one, but one of.
I would put it as an A.
I agree.
Because it's not the best that Nintendo could do.
No. It for me, the reason why it goes in an A isn't because of the quality of games, but the quality of the games. We are now in an HD era. Widescreen TVs are commonplace. 1080p, fucking normal. 4K's on the horizon. You're meaning to tell me that most of your games are still letterbox? You're meaning to tell me that you're still using cables that I have to get like an HDMI adapter for just to be able to like play it on my current TV? What? No, what the fuck, guys?
Yeah.
That to me is what really knocked that thing down a few pegs. And honestly, if it wasn't for the fact I was thinking back and remembering like the amount of fun games I did have with it, I was ready to put it at a B tier, mainly because they really shit the bed on the graphics department.
The reason I would keep it as an A is because it was backwards compatible.
Yes, you could play your GameCube games on it.
You were talking about the outputs a while ago. I remember one time I had my my Wii, and I was like, "Fuck!" I only had the bar, the sensor bar.
Yeah,
and I couldn't find the power cable, and I couldn't find the fucking AV cables, and I was just like, "Wait, fuck this," and I dug out my fucking GameCube. It's the same goddamn cables, and I just plugged that shit in. I'm like, yep, that's why it was cheaper, is this because they use the same fucking power block and the same fucking outputs.
I mean, hey, if it works, it works.
That was the thing like Xbox was. You remember the fucking power block on the Xbox?
Oh my God,
on the
dude.
360? That thing was heavier and shit.
It's like you had a travel bag for all your games, and then the power adapter.
The power adapter was a fucking anchor. like this motherfucker is sitting on the ground. And it's like if the power went out, that block still had enough charge to play the rest of the game
or to power your house.
Yeah, it was just it's so fucking ridiculously big. And the Wii, one of the best launch titles was Wii Sports.
Yeah,
out of all these games, the launch title Wii Sports was the best one because it was the game that got you off your ass and play the fucking game. Granted, you could use GameCube controllers on some of those games, but it was very Wii controller oriented.
And it was also the best tutorial game.
Yeah,
because it showed you all the different ways in which you could use the Wii mode.
You could do this, and this. The only problem was the lack of education when it came to controller use. How many LCD screens were busted because you left your kid alone with this goddamn thing?
I was going to say one of my main counterpoints also would be something that Scott the Woz kind of covers many times, and what you call shovelware. The Wii was inundated with so much bullshit. Oh my God, so many bullshit games, to the point where the only ones that were really safe to get were like first party and like AAA titles. If it wasn't a first party or AAA title, you probably wanted to stay away from it, because no matter how good that cover looks, that $10 game is still a $10 game.
Well, it's like going to Super Nintendo, LJN. Dude, if you saw that rainbow logo, that game was a piece of shit. But when we know that in hindsight, but in the early 90s, Roger Clemens baseball looks like a fun game. And it's just like, oh wait, this game sucks. And that's kind of indicative with a lot of systems. I think it was because the motion control aspect of it. The main thing I loved about Nintendo was they knew ahead of time what they were getting themselves into, so they were ready to stock peripherals with it. One was the classic controllers that you could get for the Wii, and my favorite one was the standard like flat controller. You could buy you could use your GameCube controller. You could do that, but there was the standard advanced controller that you could buy.
I've still got that one.
Yeah, and
I actually still use that to this day with the Switch.
Fun fact about that controller: if you have an emulator, a Game Boy emulator, if you use the left analog stick, guess what it does?
What?
It makes the game go faster. I wouldn't play. I homebrewed my Wii. That's why it's an A tier.
Okay, all right, I'll concede. I agree.
It's an A tier because I can homebrew son of a bitch and make it do what I want.
I have my homebrewed Wii too.
Yeah. I found mine the other day.
Nice.
But what was cool was I had the emulators on there that I put on there. So I put a little SD card in there with all the Game Boy games, and one was Pokemon Gold. And I'm fucking around playing Pokemon Gold, and I'm just like doing the because it's a standard Game Boy game, so you only need 2 buttons and the D-pad.
Yep.
So I started pressing around the other buttons to see what happened, and a lot of them just put me back to the main screen or do this and that.
God damn it!
But it's not a big deal because it just kind of like pauses the game. What this left analog stick does, though, it makes the game go super fast. So if I'm in a battle, I just hold it to the right. I just like hold it.
I was gonna say that's probably emulator specific.
Yeah, but like for the controller,
yeah,
that's badass. It makes a fight last like 2 seconds.
And then the last one in this generation is the PlayStation 3.
that was slick.
Really?
That was did you ever play the PlayStation 3 a lot?
Yeah.
Yeah, I fucking love the PlayStation. It was a lot more powerful, and what was cool was the wireless controllers were so much better with the PlayStation up until like the new Xboxes.
Yeah.
The wireless capability of the Switch, or not the Switch, but the Wii was cool because you had the sensor bar. Mm-hmm. This was all packed into one. I didn't need to unravel a 6-foot cord with a little stick and hope to God I didn't fucking lose it. But like, it also added the 6-axis controller.
Yeah.
So you could move the controller if the game directed you to. A good game of this is Killzone 2. Mm-hmm. Killzone 2 was another launch title for the PlayStation that went over to it became PlayStation only after the second game, and I fucking loved it. It was my mainstay system for a very long time. It played Blu-rays, which was a big selling point.
That was a huge selling point because a Blu-ray player was like $500-$600, or this PlayStation 3 is $400. You probably just want the PlayStation 3, don't you? It'll play games.
Oh, and the controllers are wireless.
And the controllers are wireless.
And it was the USB Micro 1.
Yep.
The USB Mini 1. And I gave my friend Christy the PlayStation 3. She still has it. It's still working. I'm still surprised it still works sometimes. If she's listening to this, she asked me, we were sitting down one day. She's like, hey, can I ask you a favor? And I'm thinking like, do you need me to like beat the fuck out of somebody? Like, it was that kind of tone.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, well, of course. What do you need? Can you beat this level on God of War? I'm just like, yes.
I got you.
I got it. I'm just like, holy shit, I still got it. But the PlayStation 3 is, I want to say an S, but it's not as good. Like, it's no PlayStation 2.
Yeah. I mean, I would agree with an A.
Yeah.
To me, the 3 wasn't as great as the 2, and I think the 360 was cooler than the 3.
Yeah, the 360 really took off. And I think that's a lot to do with Ubisoft, with like the Call of Duty games and stuff like that.
Right.
And just the controller alone. Out of the two, granted, the 360 didn't have the 6-axis part of it, but, it's motion control.
All right, so now we're going to move on into some of the more recent generations, and I got a couple fun ones to toss out before we get back to our serious heavy hitters. Where would we put Google Stadia?
In the goddamn trash.
I will be putting that in the F tier. What about the Ouya?
Ouya? Mm-hmm. Oh, dude, I remember when that was advertised. I was like, man, that's gonna be the shit.
Dude, I was stoked for the Ouya.
Trash, man.
Absolute F.
It seemed like that was like them and Stadia seemed like it was a scam.
Yeah. I have a feeling they were.
It is just like, am I getting fucked over here?
And let's see, is there any of the other weird ones we can throw out here for getting back to our heavy hitters? Does not look like it. All right, we're going to go ahead and get the punching the babies out of the way. The Wii U.
I didn't really play a lot of the Wii U, but me and you had a pretty good discussion about this a while back. Was my idea of is like, this was the precursor. This is like a layman's Switch.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I got an idea for a system. Kids are really loving the dual screen with the DS. What if we can dual screen a console? Blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. And I think, yeah, it's a precursor. I give it a C.
I was literally dragging it to C because that's where I was thinking, because I can't say that the game selection's bad because half of the fucking Switch game collection is Wii U games, and they're pretty fun. But that system, though, I played the system once. That was enough for me. All right, then after that, we've got the Xbox One. Now, are we going to combine the One S and the One X and all the other variations?
So you had the Xbox One white, and then you had the Xbox One S Scorpio, which was the black one. I had the black.
Well, no, the Xbox One was black, the S was white, and then the X was black.
I had the X. They were fine. So this is where we kind of defer to. I'd have to defer to the games themselves.
Yeah.
So
because at this point, consoles are just
consoles.
Yeah.
The only thing was, hey, do you have kids? You have a fucking Nintendo. Hey, do you like playing online? You got an Xbox. Hey, do you love story-driven games where it's like watching a movie? You play the PlayStation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just like it becomes very, hit or miss. The power alone for the Xbox One was okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't as good as the PS4.
I just don't have a lot of games that are popping off on the top of my head being like, oh yeah, killer Xbox One game.
But a lot of it was multiplayer games.
Right.
The only one they had that wasn't was probably like Gears of War. And a handful of others like the Assassin's Creed games.
Right.
Which had finally got sent to Xbox. So yeah, it's a great system. Like it's a B.
Yeah.
A B.
Yeah.
It's fair.
Yeah, I would agree on that one because I'm just not sure where else we could really put that and be like confident.
Like it's worth the money. Like it was worth the money when it came out.
What about your PS4? And we'll combine the pros and all those together.
PS4,
as well.
I had a white PS4. I put it as an A. It was my favorite console for that whole war.
Man, it goes in an A for me simply because of the fucking Spider-Man game.
Yeah,
that the best movie ever.
But another thing was about PlayStation, and I didn't think about talking about it. When you turned on the PlayStation 3, the menu setup was the same as the PSP.
Yes.
They incorporated that in the PS4, which is a very simple system. Hey, where's your library? It's on the left.
Yep.
Hey, where's your streaming services? On the right. The Xbox looked like an app phone.
They changed their UI quite often.
Yeah, and PlayStation didn't. PlayStation kept it the same the whole fucking time.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, and they incorporate a new feature in the PS5 just like the new Xbox does, and we'll talk about that when we get to it. But like the PS4, the controller was it seemed bigger. It had the touch on the front and
barely utilized,
and
but
I didn't notice this until after I got rid of it. I was playing it one night and all the lights were out, and I was playing one of the Lara Croft games, and I was in a cave in the game, and I had a torch, and I kind of looked down, and there's like an orange glow coming from the controller, and I didn't realize it was a UI system built into the controller with the lights in the inside of the LEDs, so it flickered like a torch, and I'm like, oh, I gotta put in Batman. I gotta see what the fuck is this thing doing? What is this? And it would turn like a light green, and I started going and looking at the fucking system. Dude, the amount of stuff you could do with that controller was fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, I've still got mine over there. I need to dig into it a little bit more.
Yeah, but like if you play one of those games that have like an immersive setup for the controller, it'll automatically click on, and there's a speaker in the controller that gives a weird ambient sound off.
Yeah.
And that was like, when I was playing that game, I kind of like looked at it, and when I lifted up, I could hear the crackle of the torch from the controller.
Oh, that's cool.
And I'm like, at first I thought it was broken. Like, and I'm just like, oh, that is fucking slick. You talk about a flagship game, Tomb Raider. And by the time PlayStation 4 came out, Among Thieves, Uncharted.
Yeah.
Dude, like, get the story-driven, dude. Nothing on the fucking Xbox game close to that.
I will agree. That's a killer game.
And another thing for the PlayStation, we'll probably talk about it later on. Last of Us.
Oh yeah.
You talking about Red Dead Redemption? It was on the Xbox. It was, these games were story-driven like a motherfucker, and the amount of time Sony gave Watchdog or Naughty Dog the time to make these games, bravo! Like just out the gate.
Oh, I'd agree.
It's not like Skyrim. There's like 40 fucking versions, but like, these were the systems I played Fallout 4 on.
These were the games.
These were the days. And like PlayStation 4 for me is an S tier. I'd concede an A just because, but like the controller,
I'll put it in an S tier.
The controller is just as good as the Xbox controller.
I would agree. I'll put it in S tier. I think it's better than the PlayStation 3. So for that alone, I'll do S. What about PlayStation TV?
Never used PlayStation TV.
Essentially, it was a system that was ahead of its time. It was supposed to be strictly a digital console. You could only use the system if you had one of the PlayStation subscriptions, and you could stream games to it and play it, yada, yada, yada.
That was kind of like as a IP, PlayStation really didn't and we'll get to it with the newer Xbox, but like Xbox Live compared to PlayStation Now is like two different things.
But it's like it failed out the gate because it was called PlayStation TV. You would think that you would plug it in and it would work like a Roku box. No, it didn't work like that at all. It was to play strictly streaming PlayStation games. It was ridiculous. And now
we forgot what about one of the greatest consoles of all time, the Amazon Fire Stick controller. You can play games on the Amazon Fire Stick.
Well, let's go ahead and move on over to the Nintendo Switch. S tier, baby. I have put in
the OLED.
Yeah. The OLED was one rocks. I've still got the original, but I don't use it in handheld much at all. It's usually docked to the TV.
I still haven't hooked mine to the TV.
Well, when you've got that nice screen, you really don't need to.
But I got a 65-inch TV at home, and I'm just like, I guess one day I'll fucking hook that motherfucker up.
And it's like, Joy-Con drift aside, every controller can have its issues. Xbox, PlayStation, they've all had controller malfunctions as well. I've not personally experienced the drift. I've got a little problem with my screen, but I'll chalk that up to negligence on my part at some point in time.
I will say, when the OLED came out, Nintendo decided to break down and make a controller for the Switch, and it is fantastic. It feels like an Xbox controller.
I've played it. It's really, really nice.
Yeah, I got the one with like the gold trim and shit on it. I'm just like, man, I kind of don't want to play this. It's too nice. It's like I don't want to fuck it up.
But to me, the Nintendo Switch is just the epitome of what a Nintendo console is at this point. It's a handheld. It's a portable. You put it on the TV. It's bam, right big. You can play your Mario Karts and your Smash Brothers, all the games you love. You got your Lego games, your Batman games. They hooked it in with the third parties. They're retroactively putting their old stuff on there. It's the ultimate Nintendo console. If you loved anything about the previous consoles, you will love this console.
The only negative I have with it, and it's basically a negative because my hands are fucking big, is when I use one Joy-Con to play a game with somebody, it's really hard for me
I can understand
play
that
because I'm pressing like 3 buttons at one time.
Yeah. But it's like
I didn't really notice until we were at Mikey's when we were playing Mario Kart, and I'm just like touching this little tiny fucking like sliver of a controller, little nubbin, and I'm just like, what the fuck? How am I staying on track? Like, because I'm just like, I'm literally just like crushing it with one hand, and like everybody's like playing it like real tight and everything, and it's like they're used to it. But me, I'm just like ramp. It's just like, and I'm just like, I'm looking at him, just like, I'm like twisting it just a little bit, and I'm like, how far could I break this motherfucker? How much would I have to? I'm thinking in my mind, how much would I have to give Mikey for a left Joy-Con?
You probably have to buy the whole pack, and those bitches are $80.
Yeah,
but no, I completely agree, because what we were joking about actually at work today is you have bassist hands and I have guitarist hands. Guitarist hands do well with Joy-Con controllers. Bassist hands do not. So
that's the nicest someone's ever said. One time called them Englishmen crushing hands.
That's another way we'll word it. We can word it that way too. Now we're moving on into the other big boys. We're done with the toy that is Nintendo. We've got the big boy Xbox and PlayStations. First up here, we've got our Xbox Series S and X.
The newest ones.
The newest Xbox system.
Vent.
Yes, the mini cooler.
Yeah, the mini cooler. Well, I'd rate this fridge at an A.
I'm going to have to completely defer to you on this one, because by this generation, outside of the Switch, I have had no experience with the Xbox or the PlayStation of this generation.
So I played them at Brad's. What I like about the newest Xbox...
What's up, Brad?
Yeah. What's great about the new Xbox and the PlayStation is we're playing the PlayStation.
We can probably hit both of these in one go.
Yeah. Both on the A tier. But like, they do this new thing now that it's all about the hardware in cooperation with the software. Is, hey, we're playing the PS4. Hey, man, do you want to see what's on Netflix real quick? All right, let me close my game out and we can watch Netflix.
Yeah.
Do that on these new ones. You just press stop. The game literally pauses in location. No save, no none of that bullshit. Pause in location and just start playing something else, because the software can now do that. It has the hardware and processing power to basically stop a game in mid-production.
Yeah.
and you could just come right back to it. None of this save state bullshit. None of this checkpoint shit. It's just like, hey, what are you doing? I'm playing the game. Can you pause it for a second? Yeah, I actually can pause it for a second.
Yes, for once in my life, I can.
And not lose my entire fucking save. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is a new feature. The new controller is a little bit faster for the new Xbox. It's the same format hardware-wise, but
you can adjust the torque.
Yeah, you can adjust the torque and the sensitivity a little bit better. There's so much like Barbie-esque styling you can do to it.
Oh yeah, you go to that custom controller site and it's just like, oh my god.
One of the only controllers I've ever modded was an Xbox 360 controller, but it was the white controller. I took it apart and painted it and put it back together.
Nice.
And it is seamless to put back together. You know, it's not as fragile as like a PlayStation 2 or 3 controller. And like some of these controllers just melt in your hand, man, and it just feels so well. And the PS5 controller, brand new from PlayStation, feels so awesome. The handles are a little bit longer now. It's still slim. It still fits in your hand. You know, the buttons are just like that right distance away.
Right.
But I would say the PlayStation 5 is better because of their launch game.
Okay.
And this is by happenstance. I had went to Brad's, and like always, I got there too early. And he's just like, hey, you know, Raina's home. She'll let you in. Hey, check out the PS5. And the PS5 looks like it's straight from fucking Star Trek or some shit. You know, it doesn't look like a fridge or anything. It looks like some Hellraiser-esque fucking console because it does look weird as shit. And there's a game in the beginning of it, like the fucking Wii, where it taught you how to use the controller. And dude, I accidentally beat the whole fucking thing before Brad got home. And as you play the game, you unlock a museum in the museum is a walk around museum of everything PlayStation.
Oh, that's cool.
So I basically unlocked this entire museum of objects from the PlayStation 1 to its peripherals, to its controllers. You could jump on the PlayStation. You could literally jump on it and jump on the open button and the thing would open up.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's like a game would spin.
Yeah.
The PlayStation 2 with the little iToy and the fucking stupid shit with that. You know, then I unlocked the PlayStation 3 with its little 3D sticks and stuff like that. Memory cards everywhere. To the PlayStation 4, I unlock it and all the cool little stuff for it. And you're just playing around as like this little like me character from like a Wii, and it taught you. And I'm like, that is the most fun I've ever had in a game in a very long time.
Right.
When it came to like a platforming kids game, that was legitimately a fun thing. And like if I had a PlayStation 5, I'd probably appreciate it more. But like for a launch title built into the game, fantastic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I threw both of those in an A, which definitely does round out like the majority of like your major consoles up to this point. So now we got a couple wild cards. Wild cards, baby. These don't really fit into necessarily any specific generation, but we'll just kind of run through them really quick. You've got the NVIDIA Shield Portable, which turns your cell phone into a whole ass gaming system.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the same with the it's a new product called a Backbone. Have you seen this?
Yes, it's very similar to that.
Yeah.
Same thing with the Shield TV from NVIDIA. Basically kind of like your Roku box.
So you know what PlayStation did?
What?
PlayStation created a peripheral for your fucking wireless PlayStation 3 controller where you can just mount your fucking phone to it.
There you go.
They put that fucking shit out to business. Like,
and then you've also got your Valve Steam Link.
I'll save it for the end. Just go ahead. The Steam Link was cool if you have a Steam account.
Yeah.
And you're good, and you're just using Steam. But like even then, some of the Steam games, some of the publishers aren't gonna make the extra effort to make that their main selling point.
And the number one console that we've not covered yet. PC Master Race.
Best in the fucking world. Fuck anyone. Fuck them all.
You say S tier for
fucking
PC.
PC Master Race motherfucker. Goose stepping along, beating these motherfuckers to death. You know what you can do with a PC? Whatever the fuck you want on the PC. That's why.
Then is it truly a gaming console?
You can hook a controller up to it. It's a fucking gaming console.
All right. So, in quick review, in our F tier, we have
everything else is shit.
I'm not going to go through our nopes, but yeah, in our official F tier, we have the Atari 2800, the Hudson Soft Turbo Graphics and TurboGrafx 16, the Neo Geo and Neo Geo CD, the Jaguar CD, the Virtual Boy, Google Stadia, the Ouya, and the Sony PlayStation TV. In the D tier, we've got the Philips CDI and the Sega Saturn. In the C tier, we've got the Atari 5200, the Sega Master System, the Sega CD, the Sega Dreamcast, and the Wii U. That seems about right. B tier, we've got the Sega Genesis, the Atari 2600, Atari Pong, the Game & Watch, the Sony PlayStation, and the Xbox One S. And in the A tier, we've got Commodore 64, the NES, the original Xbox, the Nintendo Wii, the Sony PlayStation 3, and the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5. And in our goated S tier, we have the one and only NES, the Nintendo 64, the GameCube, the PlayStation 2, the Xbox 360, PlayStation 4, Nintendo Switch, and the PC. Whew. That was a lot of words. What were you saying you were going to save till the end of that?
The PC. I didn't know the PC was on that list. So, like, I was just like, man, the PC, you ain't really going to beat that motherfucker. Like, it's just, hey, do you want to play every game ever fucking made? Guess what? You can't on the fucking PC.
And it's emulated.
And I don't give a fuck. At any point in history, the PC is knocking that shit out of the park, man.
I still say it's hardly a gaming console, but I guess that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah.
Well, if you agree with our rating or disagree or want to do your own, definitely check out the Discord link in the episode description. I'll post a link to this exact makeup. That way, if you did play one of these systems we just said nope to, you can go ahead and throw it in that ranking system, or otherwise you can just skip over it. Yeah, and we've of course got our merch. Link is in the episode description.
Buy our stuff.
Buy the shit, motherfuckers. Keep this shit rolling with us. And if you enjoyed this tier episode, we might try finding ways to do some more of these tier list things. Maybe a little bit shorter format, maybe a little bit of a different format. I've been teasing that for a long time, but I've been slowly getting the pieces together and figuring out best ways to do it. That's the only reason I keep talking about it, because it will fucking happen. But as always, Chris, amazing co-host as always. And do you have any sort of final thoughts for us?
If you think I'm wrong about my S tier fucking listings, you're welcome to come over here. You better bring a fucking Nintendo with you to defend yourself.
I've got a GameCube, folks. We're good.
I got your name. I got your ass. Okay, motherfucker? Like, I don't care. I'm going to beat your ass to death if I have to pry the 64 from Alex's cold dead hand.